conflict, strife, despair, anxiety, corruption, turmoil, war. Why do these exist? Why do we keep hurting each other if we all want the best for ourselves and our loved ones? If our nature and instinct is to help when we see need? There might be several answers to that question, and it's a conversation that can take us a while. But let us explore here what I believe is the most prime and original culprit for this dichotomy: the two voices in my head. Humanity has always looked for a heightened state of being. Through religion, prayer, meditation, or many other forms of spiritual awareness, we have always looked for ways to get us to a higher self, a more illuminated being, a teacher, a yogi, or many other ways of describing it. And we have seen how the most celebrated and revered teachers of this have manifested many wonderful things and blessings in this heightened state of awareness. Buddha, Jesus, and many others have taught us what we are capable of doing if we explore, exercise, and pay attention to these gifts we all possess. So, if there is a higher state of mindfulness and being, a higher state of consciousness that we achieve through these practices we just mentioned, then there also should be the other side, a not so higher state of mind and or being. For the purpose of this conversation, I will call this the egocentric consciousness, or just the ego. I'll just say it out loud and get it out of the way. The ego is not the enemy. It is not a bad part of us. And to understand and love these teachings, it will be helpful to get rid of all forms of judgment. No, there is no bad part. You are perfect and loved in any way, shape, or form you choose to express in this moment of time. There are things that are helping your evolution and others that are holding you back. And you might choose to call these bad or good, but I feel more free and powerful by not doing so. Now, if this sense of being is called the ego, how would we call that heightened state of mindfulness or being? We can call it our Christ consciousness. We can call it spirit, chi, prana, or as we here in the United Palace prefer, we call it spiritual artistry. If you understand these concepts intellectually, how do we bring them to a practical understanding? For me, the best way is to relate these with emotions. The two original emotions, in my understanding, where all others come from. First, the one emotion used to describe God. No matter what religion or spiritual affiliation you prefer, we can all agree, God is love. And if you are confusing this love with romantic love, then I fear these words are not for you. And then on the other side, it's the polarizing opposite. The other part of this dualistic experience we live and face. That will be fear. So love is your spiritual artist. Fear is your ego mind. The ego is always speaking. It is a constant and incessant flow of thoughts and images and ideas. The ego wants this, but when you get this, it no longer wants this. It wants that. And then when you get that, it will not want that anymore, because the ego is not about this or that. It's about the want. Your spiritual artist is silent. It knows better. It knows you were created to the image and likeness, and thus you have the power of creation. It knows the difference between thinking about being and just being. It is where creation flows, where ideas and solutions are found. It is also strongly tied to your imagination. So how do I know when my actions and decisions come from the ego? Or is this my spiritual artist consciousness? These are the two voices in my head. If you're not hearing the two voices, it might not be because they are not there. It might just mean that you are not identifying them separately. I will tell you a personal story that might help you know the difference. For me, social injustices and discriminations have always stirred up a desire to rebel against a system that I thought was broken. It took one newscast, similar to the ones we hear these days, that got me so mad I was ready to walk down the street and express that anger somehow. I stopped and started watching myself in this state of anger. I started noticing my breath was very shallow and agitated. My glands were sweating and my heart was pulsing rapidly. But then something happened. I noticed myself observing myself. There was a consciousness that was describing the current state of my physical body and mind. This observer was not angry. It was merely observing. In this moment, I noticed there were two of me inside me. The observer, calm, quiet, in control, powerful. And the observed, angry, agitated, and a victim of circumstances. I understood in this moment, and with time and attention, that I didn't have to identify with that one being observed. I could say, I am the observer. I no longer get controlled by this anger, that come to look at it, it belongs more to fear and ego than to love and spiritual artistry. I encourage you to think about this. Pay attention to your thoughts and emotions. Where do they come from? Are they a product of love or fear? I have a hunch this world would be a much better place if we all followed the voice of our spiritual artist. Thank you for joining us. I'm Reverend Tuto, and this is the power of spiritual artistry. See you next time.